Good afternoon, everyone. We have gathered here for panel discussion on roots before returns, why Agritech grows differently. Let's welcome our panelist, our moderator, Mr. Anurag Agarwal, partner Avishkar Capital. Let's welcome our speakers, Mr. Samir Shah, Executive Vice Chair and Co-founder, Dvara Holdings, Mr. Ashish Choudhury, Chief Investment Officer, NABVENTURES, Dr. S. Senthil, Principal Scientist and Head, Education System Management Division, ICAR, Mr. Nitin Agrawal, Founder and CEO, Navadhan. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this panel. So this panel is about the agri-tech space, and what we are going to cover in this panel is a broad understanding of what is the landscape, right? How do we balance profit and growth? What sort of new innovations we are seeing in this place? What are we seeing on the policy side, and how do we see the future? So we have a very interesting and diverse panel here, combination of investors, incubator, practitioners on the field. So thank you all for joining. So I'll start with Ashish. Ashish, in your capacity at NAB Ventures, you see a lot of agri ventures, right? So I would request you to set the stage and help us define how do you define agri-tech space for India, right? What do you see as the most pivotal changes shaping agri-tech sector over the last decade? And what subsectors are you seeing as emerging, promising subsectors in this space? So you can set the context for us.
Sure, sure. Sure. Firstly, thanks for having me on the panel, and obviously we'll use this opportunity to discuss, and hopefully the audience takeaway is much more meaningful in terms of whatever we discuss today. When we talk about agri-tech, obviously agri-tech in terms of definition, it largely, if you go by any textbook definition, it covers tools, technologies, as well as practices that you use to basically do 3-4 things for agriculture. It may be either to increase yield, it may be either to reduce cost, and it may be either to boost the sustainability factor in the normal practices that we do. And when we say that agriculture, we also include, many times we miss the fact that there's a livestock, there is aquaculture, there are a lot of other streams which also have, if I may say, a lot of innovation which is yet to be done, and a lot of value which is yet to be derived from those sort of segments which are there in the agri-tech domain. To set the context in terms of what exactly agri-tech would have been there, because agri-tech, if you go back earlier, I'll lay down few, if I may say, just more relatable sort of concepts. So we have moved from a tractor-driven farm mechanization, which was there maybe 10 years back, to much more, if I may say, much more farmer-centric sort of machinery. See, understand that agri-equipment market globally is driven by farm machinery rather than tractors. But in India, tractors have been, for some reason, the key driver of whatever is there in terms of mechanization. It just holds the symbol of mechanization. But I think a lot of ground level insights are there which are required in terms of who actually uses the tractor and what can be done beyond that. So we moved from farm mechanization, from a tractor-driven farm mechanization, to a lot of things which are there on, if I may say, if you look at, now we have drones, now we have satellites, now we have ground level sensors, we have IoTs, and these are driven by multiple, if I may say, use cases. If you see even something like drones, they have multiple use cases around, not just from a spraying or a monitoring to even a predicting a sort of pest attack or something. So a lot of things are there which can be used. I understand that farmers are not expected to use it directly on their own. There's a lot of structuring, financing, and support is required, but that's what it is. Apart from mechanization, I think the key change that has happened is that we have moved from a mandi-centered model to a more farmer-centric model. When I say Mandi centered is where most of the models, most of the ecosystem players were focused around how to create efficiencies, how to maybe create a lot of things around Mandi. Now it has moved much more to farm level, where we have people looking more at people using more of data, a lot of things to get farmer centric solutions out there. And it may be in farm management, it may be in precision farming, it may be in a lot of other sectors. So that is another big change, if I may say, that has happened from, if I may say, if you put a timeline of say 10 years or so, which has happened in the past things and all. The third thing, I'll just, because we can cover any of these things in our discussion, the third thing which has happened is the supply chain itself. The market linkages are much more prominent now. The farmer is not just a producer, he's also a consumer. The farmer is much more aware, and thanks to obviously the whole digitization, the tech, the penetration of smartphones and data and digital rails, including the agri stack and multiple other things which are government initiatives and all. So I believe that that's where a lot of things happened on the agri-tech side, but a lot has to be done. So that is largely the context agri-tech that I see for what has happened and what it is now. But
Thanks, Ashish. I think that was a pretty comprehensive overview. So I'll move to Senthil ji, आपके पास. So you run a agri incubator, right? So can you sort of for us tell us, how are these agri tech startups different from other tech startups, right? What kind of rural realities come into play? What sort of differentiation is there in terms of growth rates? Can these grow faster, slower? So can you throw some light on that?
Thank you. Very good afternoon to all. It's very pleasure to answer, as all of us agree that agri-tech is definitely different. It cannot be compared with the high-tech or fintech or biotech. It's having its own. We know, all of us know, there are challenges in agriculture itself, because our farmers are the small and marginal farmer land holding more than 70%. But still, digital entrance, if you look into that village levels, are very, very less. Though large number of digital tech has been introduced, still has not been entered, less than 10%. And our GDP is being still in agriculture, long back it was around 40-50%, now we have just made it to around 17-18%. So our workforce also around 40% depends. So there are a lot of challenges in agriculture. For your questions, I can say there is a lot of the agri-tech investment pattern when we look into that, which you asked it. There is a lot of difference compared to the other conventional investment system. In agri sector, we need the investment horizon, it's more than 12 years required. Most of the VCs are investors required. It's a rapid, little fast return of it. But in agriculture, there is a challenge. Our crop cycles, our weathers are little disturbed, and we take longer time to get it. We will make it, I make it as a 3 phases our agri-tech or agriculture startups needs. 3 years it will take, it's the foundation itself. And another 4 years it will take to come to the stage in which it grows, it start getting slow return. And after 8-9 years only return of investment starts. So investors, we need to wait for some time. So it's required in a larger way. Second important aspect is our ecosystem. Agri-tech depends on large number of ecosystem players. Those players are having major role to strengthen us. And if you look into that, venture VCs, exclusively for agri-tech, it's very meager. If you look into the IT, there is a large number, but we can count it. It's not more than 10 or 12 people who are real investor in the VCs for the agri-tech. Very selective people. And but the sector is required is a large number. So our ecosystem need, it's not only fund alone. Agriculture system, if you look into that, it's not fund alone. It's need many things. We need good mentors. We need good laboratory, good certification body, quick certification body. So that is very much required for us. And third, which we find it as an incubation center, that incubation, we are having plenty of incubation centers in the country in all the system. But that valley of the death, when the curve, if you drawn it, After 3 years of time, till 3 years, some support systems are there in the form of grant, some support government is able to provide it. But when before maturity there is a curve comes, that particular period we need a lot of support. So the value of depth of 4 years, after 3 years of service, if you provide little handhold support, there is a start to growth in Agritech. And the fifth one, which I say that our aspect of the, we have to strengthen the startup ecosystem. And there are, I am really happy that the NABVENTURES, it's able to do some support system in the valley of the death. We need some more organization, and that the intermediate stage support is more than the initial stage support. Initial stage support, we are able to, many organizations are able to support, but that crosses stage, it's very much required. So this is what I will to take about the first question. And I think there is a second question which you asked, this about the rural realities. Now, there are in agriculture system, large number of grassroots innovations are coming up. There are rural innovations are plenty of coming up, and we have to strengthen the rural innovation hub and incubation hub. And there are good number of entrepreneurs are coming out on that area. Most of the incubation center today in the city, if you look at that, there are in tier 2 or the tier 3, tier 1 cities. We should have a more on the tier 3 cities, and those innovations or those entrepreneurs or those startups or address the problem of the local issues. So we are thankful to our Government of India initiative. That's from the PSA, Principal Scientific Officer office. It's under the PMO. They created center called RURTech, Rural Technology Action Group. It is coming in a very nicely, and they created rural smart village centers. And Navadhan has created a center of excellence for that. That support to create rural-based startups, rural innovation to reach out. So I am really thankful to Nabad has taken this initiative with the support of in collaboration with the PSA, and probably it will be changing the rural reality and rural problem to address it. Thank you.
So you mentioned agri-tech startup needs 10 to 12 years. Yes. Most of us as funds don't have that kind of time, right? We are looking at 5-6 years to exit, right? You also said that there aren't enough funds who are funding this, and maybe that is linked to that. So Nitin, as a practitioner, you have wide outreach on the ground. You operate in both urban and rural areas. What is your takeaway? Do you agree, or you have a different take on this?
Well, these are experts, so I can't afford to disagree. And two of you hold the strings of the capital, so I can definitely not afford to disagree. But yeah, so from our perspective, I think it's a situation where you keep trying to show incremental changes, incremental improvements towards your ultimate mission. And if you're on that path, or if you're following that process where you're able to show incrementally you're closer to the mission, then capital comes by. At least from my experience, Navadhan is a 6-year-old firm. First 2 years, we were completely dedicated to building our tech platform. And we went live only once the tech was ready. So to that extent, I kind of concur with Sir. But in the last 5 years, we have been able to attract new investors every year. And it has been again an incremental journey where we are able to show how we have been able to get closer to our mission. To me, capital chases good founders and good business ideas. But I must also mention that in my business, the scope of innovation is pretty limited. Because our job, in the context of agri-tech, so to speak, is to provide financing to the rural smallholder farmers, both for their businesses as well as for their household consumption. But to that opinion, I would say that if we can incrementally keep building that, new investors will come in and the old investors can get an exit.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much talk of deep tech these days, right? We look at opportunities, and there are people who are doing R&D for 4 or 5 years, even and before they get to...
Avishkar is a brilliant example. You exited a company and then re-entered later as well, right? AgroStar, if I'm not mistaken.
We've invested from multiple funds, so we keep investing, and as the old funds... So it's like a relay race. You incubate it, so it's a company that we incubated pretty much 0 stage. Of course, that fund doesn't have the ability to hold on for 10 years, so we exited from that, but we invested further from a successive fund, right? Even that fund is partially exited, and now that company is almost ready for an IPO. So it's not like these things, even though that journey has been more than 10 years, but it can be bridged through investing through multiple funds. So, coming to another hotly debated question, right? Impact versus profitability and returns, right? So, Samir, you are also doing a lot of groundwork, and you're also set up as a for-profit company, but focused also on impact, right? So, could you share some examples of how companies are managing to deliver both genuine value to farmers as well as remaining profitable? And do you see models, examples there that are working well on the ground that are able to balance this, or is it an impossible balance?
So firstly, thanks for having me here on the panel. It's a pleasure to be part of this really deep expert panel, and thanks to the audience as well. See, one of the things in ag tech industry is that because it, by definition, looks at smallholder farmers and the business of agriculture, which is super complex. I think it's one of the most complex and hence one of the most inspiring problems to solve. Because you name the problem, the smallholder farmer is exposed to that problem. I don't think there is any other businessman, businesswoman in the world which has the exposure to the problems that a smallholder farmer is exposed to. That makes it, one, very challenging and also extremely inspiring to really sort of apply your best sort of creative mind and hard work to unlock solve these problems and unlock opportunities. My experience has been in terms of sort of the balance between impact and returns is that one, to solve the problem for a smallholder farmer, I feel that you need to take a 360-degree approach to solving that problem. So many ag tech startups who focused on just ag tech are now adding multiple product lines. They are getting in the business of, originating credit, offering financial services. Those that started as financial services or fintech companies are adding value chain, capability muscle into that business model. So we are seeing multiple sort of, levers being aggregated by business models in order to, one, solve the problem, create impact, and number two, to remain profitable and sustainable. So it's not just a imperative to generate returns, it's an imperative also to generate impact. So a single product line or a single segmented focus, I believe that in the world of agriculture is not possible. It's my limited hypothesis. They may be, and I'm not saying that that's sort of the only way to look at it, but my experience says that you have to have multiple levers, because multiple cycles can go wrong in the business of agriculture. What goes wrong with the farmer goes wrong with the startup. With climate cycle changes, farmer goes into distress. Any provider to that farmer is also naturally going to distress at the same time. So multiple levers, a 360-degree approach to the farmer, to the rural household, which unlocks financial services, market linkages, climate smart practices. It's hard to do, which is why it's a long gestation business model, but it makes the business model far more rooted in farm reality. And far more levers to generate both returns as well as impact to the household. That's been sort of, so the takeaway for me, at least having been associated with this sector for a while, is to have multiple levers to help the farmer and the sector, and also to unlock returns for yourself.
But can you give some concrete examples of models where you've seen it working well, where return and impact go hand in hand, both are sort of coexisting, not at conflict with each other?
Yeah, I'll take a few examples. Some of them are sort of within the Dvara ecosystem. I'll talk one or two of them, but also in the sort of outside the Dvara ecosystem. And they are not necessarily, so I'll just caveat this by saying that they are not necessarily the only ones. They are ones that come to my mind at the moment, and ones that I've personally had experience working with. So they're not necessarily the only, and they're not necessarily the best. So don't take that away from my examples. But an example, for example, is the Arya ecosystem, right? In my earlier role when I ran NCDX, which is India's largest agri-commodities exchange, I worked with that firm quite deeply. They started as a collateral management company for managing warehouses, right? Just quality. They didn't have their own warehouses. They just started off as a collateral management company. Then they started managing full warehouses. Then they set up their NBFC. right? So, and now I would say that it's a profitable business. It's a 10-year plus business model. It's a profitable business. It has deep impact, serves multiple amount of farmers, and it has multiple levers to serve the farmer and the agricultural sector, and multiple levers to unlock returns for themselves through the business of warehousing, through the business of financing. So there is an NBFC arm, there's a warehousing business, there is labs, there is testing. It's taken them 10-15 years to build that out, right? So that's one example. Within the Dvara ecosystem, a couple of my startups haven't reached profitability stage yet. But if you look at their capital efficiency, which is the amount of revenue that they are generating vis-a-vis the amount of capital that they have raised, they are very high up on the capital efficiency sort of quadrant. And it is because I feel that the multiple levers are being pulled. And to build multiple levers is contrarian to an investor's mindset. An investor will typically say, focus, do one thing right, which I don't disagree with, but you do need few more levers in order to have a sustainable business model. So there is a little bit of I wouldn't say misalignment, but little bit of conversation with investors to say, this is how we see this model.
Thank you, Samir, for giving us some concrete examples. So let's get the investor perspective. Ashish, how do you, as an investor, look at the tension between impact and returns? And when you are evaluating, how do you go about it?
See, I come from a BFSI background, and when I look at in terms of agri as a space, see, and I'll take you from Samir, you took example of Arya as on the storage side. I'll just take another example, because obviously Arya in terms of capital, it has a different sort of funding structure, and obviously it may be well funded to a certain extent. From the fund that I run, which is NABVENTURES, we look at much more, if I may say, initiatives or innovations which are happening at maybe at a slightly lower level, but which have potential to scale. Because when you look at in terms of profitability, because see, we have to just segregate that impact, profitability and returns are three different things. See, impact can come in, and it may be measurable, it may be not measurable. That's a different thing, because a lot of metrics which are there in terms of how do you read impact. A lot of things come from Western philosophies. A lot of things come from the type of capital which has come in. Either it's I'll not take the name, but I'm saying the type of capital which is coming into India is a very different kind, with a different horizon, with a different take, because they have their own metrics of looking at how impact is. We believe that impact can be both direct as well as indirect. Direct impact, it is very difficult for an investor to create a direct impact right away, because while we may it may be in our wish list, but it's very difficult for an investor to increase the income of a farmer right away, because he has to work more on what innovations, what small segments that he can pick up, which can finally impact the life of not just the only farmer, but the household itself. So we have that holistic, which is the farm, if I may say, the household view that we have. For someone like even Nitin, you have not just the single metric around one of the family member, right? You look at the whole family as one entity, right? Which is where how the impact should also be seen, because impact around the family aren't measurable mostly. So that's why we go for initiatives around how can we make the impact larger. So coming to the return as well as profitability part of it, we also back the company. I'll come to why I picked up the storage part of it, is that, see, we look at in terms of wastages which are finally perishables basically, because largely agri if you look at the largest wastage is in perishable, which is still an unsolved problem. So can we solve it either through transportation or storage, which is the key element where the wastages happen, which will finally actually lead to better income or better, maybe lesser losses, or better income for a farmer. So we look at, is there some technology available? Is there something which is available? So we backed a company like, say, Tan90, which is again a profitable firm to start with, but they have used this profitability to generate or maybe scale up the income now into the services segment. So it's like, once we have a technology which is profitable, which is, I'm not saying maybe patented or unpatented, but it's technology which is profitable, then you raise the capital to scale up that venture, and that's somewhere maybe you'll create both impact as well as profit. Returns, I think, for investors may be different, because investors have a different way to look at returns. Right. But for, I think, they are not either or. I think there are a lot of cases where they can coexist. There may be cases where because impact may take a very long time to come, so profit may take a backseat. But again, it's fairly doable, if I may say, in terms of investors also. We just have to look at very small pockets in terms of where we can create value. So
yeah, thanks, Ashish. I think I can maybe add a little bit here. At Avishkar, impact becomes a key metric for us to look at for any investment. And it's like a gating criteria. So for any investment, just like you have a investment thesis, we also have to have a impact thesis around that, right? And the impact thesis could be, like you said, direct impact. It could be, improving livelihoods, procurement from the farmers. So you can measure that. And we actually have like financial targets for that as well. And we keep reporting it back also, right? So we keep tracking that. And there could be systemic impact as well, right? Like, for example, you mentioned 1090, reducing wastages. We invested in a company called Soulful, which was, using millets. So again, they were trying to sell millets-based breakfast cereals to rich people, which was, and this was a very hotly debated topic within Avishkar. Why should we do this investment? But we thought that if this company is successful, they could actually make a very big systemic impact in trying to, move towards millets and create awareness around that. So that was a larger systemic impact, just as an example. And one can keep debating about these things, but somewhere you have to take call. But once we are convinced about the impact metric, once that filter is clear, then it is evaluated purely on financial terms, right? And it has to compete and stand up against other, potential investees.
I think we just have to ensure as investors that the benefit of that, even if you take the example that you took, the benefit of that has to reach that farmer, because where most of the investors or companies is that a lot of intermediaries, a lot of things are involved which don't let the final benefit to reach the farmer. So I think that's where we can, if we can to take those examples where, or maybe we can build those examples where the farmer can be, or not just farmer, but even the ecosystem can be benefited. I think that's where the system would benefit definitely.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'll move on from this topic. This can, go on and on. I think let's move towards the policy and ecosystem side, right? So again, policy can be a huge enabler, and it can also, be a big roadblock as well, right? So Nitin, from your perspective, have you seen any recent policies which have actually helped improve the momentum on the agri-tech side? And, are there any standout interventions then you can point out to?
Well, I'll restrict myself to Fintech within agri-tech space as a subset, because that's what I understand. I wouldn't have too much of insights on the other spaces. I think there has been a secular move by Reserve Bank of India and both by SEBI to organize the sector a little better. Initially they have allowed a lot of innovation to happen, more specifically in Fintech, and therefore there is a derivative impact on the agri-Fintechs and overall inclusive finance space. So the way the digital lending guidelines came in, which is really promoting inclusive finance and client protection, the way the DLG or the default loss guarantee guidelines came in, there have been some other changes, but I think these two have shaken up the sector more than others. I think off late the CLM1 predominance on the CLM2 in co-lending space is another development. I think people like us who have been building with regulation first as an absolutely tight principle have been beneficiaries of this. And I was discussing this before we got into this panel, that a lot of the suppliers of capital who used to have multiple options till 2 years back have got the options shrunk, which means that there were too many fintechs which are getting funded. Now only the ones which are regulatorily compliant are getting funded. Right. And therefore people like us are getting a benefit of extra supply of capital. Of course, there's a market element to it because some of the sectors and segments have got credit impacted as well. And, serving smallholder farmer households, there are always challenges and it's not always very, very smooth journey, like sir also mentioned. There, our tech has played a role because we've been able to build moats in understanding the rural household cash flows, especially the agri cash flows. We have developed the ML models which look at last 10 years yield realizations and then fluctuations around it, which allows us to underwrite the customers better, therefore get the credit quality better. So I would say client protection, making the segment and sector more disciplined as far as providers of capital is concerned. And third, making it really, really customer-centric is where the policy has played a great role. I would say on the ease of business, sorry, I'm dragging the topic. On ease of business side, there's a lot which can be done. especially on the tax rate. For example, I have never understood the logic of having professional tax. You take 200 rupees from every one of your employees, and then you're also taking TDS on their income tax. So some of these extra layers of governance which have got built, I think ease of doing business can be improved. I would make my last statement. One big impact that can happen in the space is where Aadhaar becomes truly the unique ID. For some reasons, Aadhaar is still not a unique ID. You have a separate PAN card, a separate driving license. So many IDs and so many potential for doing frauds exist. And therefore, unique identity is very important. I think if this forum could take away anything, a request on the policy side to make Aadhaar truly unique ID for each customer would be helpful.
So you've given us more from a financier's perspective and general business perspective. But Senthil sir, maybe if I can ask you, how do you see ecosystem players like FPOs, government, corporate partnerships? How do they impact or support agri-tech startups?
Thank you, sir. And as I earlier also said it, ecosystem of this system is a large number of players are there. Now the important player is in the agri-tech, agri side, it is APOs. The recent report of NABARD also indicates that we have nearly to reach about 10,000 APOs. And these APOs have to handle the three aspects: production, credit, and marketing. If they become expert of these three, all APOs are able to success it. To support the production, all our research institutions of 100 plus ICAR institution, 75 plus agricultural institutions are able to support. Marketing wing, it's really weak. Commercialization or the packaging, branding by the APOs, it's little weak. In which there are different business model have come. It has been developed by different organizations, and which we are able to support those APOs in the system. Of course, for the credit, we have a good number of schemes which has been supporting the APOs, credit guarantee schemes, support system. So there are support systems are there, but there are need. Agri-tech has become, this session is on agri-tech, APOs are still not able to catch up the tech-based agriculture system. The reason is scientists in the agriculture system are not competent in the AI or IoT or blockchain. They are all expert in the production aspect. So now there is a need to integrate, and that has to reach to our APO system. So the solution here to take agri-tech to the farmers APO level, NABARD has initiated a program called Immersion Program. It's nothing but taking the startups to the rural areas in village, where APOs will be mobilized by the NABARD, wherein you are able to transfer the technology, which is having a support system to attract. This has become very successful. ICAR-NAARM is able to do it throughout the pan-India approach for the last 20 programs, could be able to make it around I can say around 15,000 people we are able to make it attract, and it is becoming it. The second aspect which you said, and that is creating trust among the APOs that about the technology which has been taken to the village level. The second ecosystem player which you said about the government schemes. So for the information to everybody, government has come into the lot of support system. You know about DST is created technology business incubator. Niti Aayog has created Niti Aayog AIC Atal Incubation Center. For this, our agri-tech, the Ministry of Information, MeitY has come out with a very good scheme. If investors are ready to support, MeitY is giving an equal investment. 40 lakhs they are ready to invest. If there is an investor is ready to give the remaining 40 lakhs. We got 8 startups to invest it, but very difficult to get investors from them to give the equal portion. So if such a support VCs comes, the government support systems are very large, and government schemes are large number of schemes now for the tech-based aspect also. So there are a number of schemes have come from the government which we are making it. The third ecosystem place which you said about the government and the corporate, actually there is a need of industry collaboration. I'm thankful to CA or ASSOCHAM or Confederation of India, this organization. They are regularly doing now tech-based agri-startup program, bringing industry to collaborate with the startup systems. So these are the organizations are doing very wonderful. And there is a need to strengthen further with respect to different schemes and programs aspect. the major requirement for our startup in aspect in Agritech, people are demanding working capital aspect. But most of the funding agency, even with the banks or any organization, they are not able to support for working capital. Our startups needs fund for working capital. And they are asking collateral when physical assets have been not created by startups, where there will be a chance for giving collateral. So there must be a change has to come that which has to be relaxed. Working capital need not be come as a very important challenge for our startups. Then there is a growth will happen. This is what I would like to say.
Thank you, thank you. I think just conscious of time, we are running out of time, and I do want to have some audience questions as well. So one last question, Samir, for you. Maybe you can sum it up for us. We see a lot of buzzwords: AI, IoT, climate tech, and a lot of this is applicable to agri-tech as well, right? So what sort of innovations do you think are going to shape this space over the next coming decade? And just be brief, because I do want to take it to the audience as well. So.
No, I think massive innovation is already happening, and massive amount of innovation will happen around AI, machine learning, IoT, computer vision, satellite, remote sensing, all of that. And we are seeing patches of that already coming up. And I think that is going to be the next sort of big wave as far as agtech innovation is concerned. However, the crunch here is to take it to the farmer. Right, you can create a lot of these products and services, and many of them are restricted to the value chain, participants, corporates, etc. But bringing it to the farmer requires a physical trust infrastructure that takes these services to the farmer. So there needs to be really agtech entrepreneurs, founders who are building these trust rails, which are real community interactions with farmers, either through FPOs or directly, which then take this technology down to farm gate. So innovation in those business models are, I think, more important than the AI ML, because that has a lot of momentum in any case. I think the business model innovation on the ground is going to be a lot more important in order to take these technologies to the farm gate.
Thank you. I think I wanted to ask some more of you also, but just in the interest of time and to get some audience participation, we can take a few questions.
Samir, I'm Subhash. So extending what exactly innovation you wanted to have. So I have created 100 Sarpanch sandbox, and that is in Vidarbha region. So 100 Sarpanch on quarterly basis can come together. All the exhibition of the solutions from the entrepreneurs can actually go there. The Sarpanches can do the selection of the technologies or the solutions for their villages, and that's how I can make the gateway easy. Which is difficult one. So it's not a question, more of a extension of what you expressed.
I think that's a wonderful example, because these kind of community trust rails is where innovation needs to happen. So thank you.
मैं मनीष बोल रहा हूँ, मैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट में काम करता हूँ। मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि एग्रीटेक के साथ साथ एग्रो फॉरेस्ट्री भी एक बड़ा ये हो सकता है, माने फील्ड है। मान लीजिए बैम्बू से आप कितना कुछ प्रोडक्ट वैल्यू एडिशन कर सकते हैं। आप प्लाईवुड्स बना रहे हैं, आप अभी लंच कर रहे थे, डिस्पोजेबल था। बिलियंस डॉलर का बैम्बू प्रोडक्ट इंडिया में इंपोर्ट हो रहा है। इंडिया सेकेंड लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ बैम्बू। वी हैव रॉ मटेरियल, वी हैव मैन पावर, वी हैव टेक्नोलॉजी। खाली इकोसिस्टम नहीं बिल्ड हो रहा है।
So you have a question, sir?
ये मैं आप सबको बताना चाह रहा था कि आप लोग प्लीज इस तरफ भी सोच सकते हैं।
Okay, thank you.
Every problem solution needs an entrepreneur. So there are people like Tamal Plates. I may not be the best guy to say that, but there are people who are trying to do it, and they're doing it very successfully, raising capital as well. I think we need more entrepreneurs in the system who can lead this change.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, so I'm Sriram Singh. I run organic agriculture, and we are focusing more on heirloom seeds, the old seeds, and focusing on nutrition. So we are focusing a lot on quality, especially be it you talk about seed or talk about processing or logistics and everything. Nutrition And we are, of course, talking to a lot of labs and where we are getting it quick, like quick certification you mentioned. We need quick I think Senthilji mentioned, we need quick certification. We need quick approval that the quality of the product is good as far as the nutrition is concerned. Pure nutrition. I'm talking about the nutrition in terms of the minerals, the vitamins and all that.
We are out of time. So if
So
you have a
what
question,
kind of,
can you...
yeah, so how to address this particular, because very few people are focusing on quality, all are focusing on quantity. Thank you. Using tech.
You can approach, for example, nutrition aspect, NIN, National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad. Send the material, get the report for that. That institute is meant for that. They will give the quick reply. So every organization, these all the government organization, they have their own protocol to reply to you and what is the mode of charges or everything. Then the process goes well.
So do you expect the prices to go up? Let's say food prices relatively is very less in India, especially if nutrition, if you produce nutrition and more organic products. Do you expect in future the prices to go up for profitability?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take that question because since you mentioned about food nutrition, I was there in, I'm not in the startup, but I was there in Lucknow and just gone to someone who is actually using this nutrition as a selling point of it. My first question was, will nutrition actually result in higher premium for you? That is what your question is, right? Yes. So you have to ask that, see, so I'll give you an example why it currently doesn't work is that, because in terms of, you'll have to use a land for maybe cultivating whatever you're trying to cultivate, right? Maybe rice, it may be any sort of staple, because typically staples are somewhere, because you use daily, so nutrition intake would be much higher on a staple. So once you convince the farmers, the people, that nutrition will lead to high premium, nutrition will lead to high premium, but you'll get stuck up in, see, you can only work in two ways, either on the production side or marketing side, which you mentioned. You have to be good at both. Very few people have that entire linkage. You have to first build a linkage on the production side, because if you are only on marketing, people fail in production. If people are good in production, they're not good in marketing. So there are people who are doing it. Maybe after this we can meet up also. I suggest you to, because we have visited few locations. I'll tell you the problem there happened was that the metric ton which was cultivated by the farmers in a particular field was less. That was one problem. Second was, the demand from the consumer side was lesser, so the remaining stock had to be sold to the government as well in the same mandi. So the farmer doesn't get the premium because you have to tie up for the entire land. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because see, you have to build the whole structure. You can't say that, see, the farmer wants a guarantee, he wants a buyback from you, right? You can't give that buyback today.
So Ashish, I think I'm getting a lot of calls from the organizers, so maybe you can take that offline.
Thank you very much.
So I think we'll have to wrap up the panel now because we've totally run out of time.
Surely you can write to us. Yeah, let's take a moment to honor our panelist. I'll request Ms. Sangeeta Mehra, General Manager, NABARD, to come forward to felicitate our panelist. We will honor and present a memento to Mr. Samir Shah. Now we will present a memento to Dr. S. Senthil Vinayagam. Next we will present a memento to Mr. Ashish Choudhury. Next, we will present a memento to Mr. Nitin Agrawal. And let's present a memento to our moderator, Mr. Anurag Agarwal. Well, thank you once again to our panelists for their time and insights.